Assalamu alaikum, people. It is Monday and it is I. I'm trying to get my Insta people with us here. Ha ha ha. Today is January the 25th, 2021. And we are this week talking about stress. So as you know, every week we pick a topic so that we can go into a deeper dive on what it is, how it affects us physically, mentally, and even spiritually. And last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week? Ketogenic diet. The week before we talked about intermittent fasting. And so this week we are specifically talking about stress. Because we all have it, right? If you are just joining me and you don't know who I am Mubaraka Ibrahim, and I am your health and happiness coach. And here on the Fit Muslima Instagram, Facebook, I forgot to log into Clubhouse. And Clubhouse, we talk about food, faith, and fitness. So today's theme is stress. Tell me where you are logging in from. If you are joining me, give me salams. I love knowing how small the internet makes the world and brings us so much closer together. All right? I'm good. I'm not from Virginia, but I'm drinking from my Virginia cup because I really enjoyed going to Virginia when I went to speak one time. And it was actually a very memorable occasion, so. One thing you should know about me is I love coffee. I love coffee not just because it has caffeine. I love the taste of coffee. And that's probably worse because I can drink it just to drink it. And yes, coffee is good for you, for anybody who wants to ask. As long as you're not sensitive to caffeine and it's not making you jittery, coffee is fine to have up to 3 cups a day. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Fartun from Houston. Salams Farida. Salams Rahma from Egypt. Hey, look at that. I'm all the way on the East Coast of the United States and already reaching the West Coast and all the way to Egypt. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hajar. She said, I'm fasting and I could use some coffee. Alhamdulillah. I could definitely use some coffee too, because yesterday was a super duper busy day for me. And on top of it being busy, I went to bed later than I was supposed to. Oh, alaikum salam. Tahseen from Singapore. Zanuba, wa alaikum salam. Mansi 886 from wa alaikum salam from Birmingham, UK. This is what I don't like so much about Instagram. Is like I don't know people's name. Like Instagram don't tell you your name, just tell you like your profile. So is your name Mansi? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is your name. Some people use their name, but a lot of people actually do not use their name on Instagram. All right, people, we are talking about stress this week. So if you have not hit that little bell button so that you can be notified and reminded, I know you're not going to forget me. I know, because like we good like that. But just in case stuff gets busy and you need a little bell to remind you, hey, Mubaraka is getting ready to go live, make sure that you subscribe, you hit the bell so that Monday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I'm on the East Coast of the United States, you are getting the notification that I'm getting ready to go live. So let's talk a little bit about stress. And we're not going to stay on long. I really do try to keep it to about 30 minutes, but y'all know me, I just talk a lot. So, stress, everybody has it, right? Everybody goes through it. We are stressed from the time we're born to the time we die. Babies are experiencing all of the physiological stress response when they're crying because they need their pamper changed, when they're hungry, right? Their verbalization of feeling the stress of not knowing that it's coming is crying, and so they are going through the stress response. When we get older, right, there's a stress response of how long can I stay independent? Are my kids gonna still take care of me when I get older? Am I gonna get sick and die, right? All of that is actually a part of a stress response. Even things like, can I not fall in a house by myself? All of those things create a stress response. Stress response is a natural response that has developed in human beings because it saves our life, right? The physiological response to fight or flight is what helps to save us from danger, right? So I tell you a really interesting way that it was put to me when I was in college. One of my professors, he said, you think about the stress response and everything that happens if you were hunting in the woods and you're going to be chased by a bear, right? So one of the things that happens is, first, your heart rate starts beating fast, and your heart rate is beating fast so they can pump blood to every part of your body, particularly your muscles, right? Because now your muscles have to be on alert because you're getting ready to decide whether or not you're gonna be able to flee, right? Flight, or if you are going to have to fight for your life. And in order to do that in a very physical way, you need blood to your muscles. So that's why the heart starts pumping really, really fast, right? The next thing that happens when you are getting ready to go to flee, right? The flight part is your blood vessels constrict. They get smaller and it becomes almost like a super highway. And it actually takes the blood and pushes it into the muscle, and it actually moves it further away from the surface of the skin. And that is because if you did decide to flee and you had to run through a thicket of bushes or thorns, if all of your veins and everything was full of blood and everything was at the surface of your skin and you got cut, you would actually bleed out before you got away, right? So you want your blood to rush into the muscles and away from the surface of the skin. So that's another thing that happens. The next thing that happens when when you're in a stress response is your body actually develops this, you get really sensitive, because you know how like when you're stressed, sometimes you become paranoid, you become anxious, right? It's because we have to pay attention to everything that's around us. We need to notice where we need to run to. We need to understand what the danger is. We actually get more aware of things, right? So paranoia becomes, not to an extreme extent, but you become much more aware what you're looking at, what you're hearing. You become much more intense because you got to get ready to flee. Imagine we're picking berries in the woods, right? We're going to harvest and the bear is coming and we have to decide what we're getting ready to do. The next thing that happens in extreme fight or flight is physiologically, now cortisol is taking over and it is telling your insulin, all right, we getting ready to run, but I don't want you to focus on burning fat. I just need all of the energy to be ready to go so that we can get ready to use that energy in order for us to run. So if you remember when we talked about intermittent fasting and we talked about ketogenic eating and we talked about the insulin response, what's the goal of insulin? Your goal of insulin is to open up the cells, right? So all of the energy can go inside of the cells and it can give you nutrients all over. Remember, insulin is, we compared it to like the bouncer open the door, right? And so when you need all of your energy and everything into your muscles, that insulin is opening up so that you can actually get all of that energy in so you can get ready to run. So how does that relate to us today? Because most of us, I would safely say 95% of the world, don't have to worry about running from a bear in the woods while they're harvesting berries. The problem that gives us is that we are in a situation where what's causing the fear, what's causing the stress response is maybe the boss that we have to deal with on a very daily basis. Maybe it's the teenager that's acting up on a daily basis. Maybe it's being in an abusive relationship or having a strained relationship with a family member, something that you're going through on a very daily basis. For some of us, it is simply having self-hate, right? And you're literally looking in the mirror at yourself every day, and it causes a stress response. All of those things are not fight or flight. So what happens is all of the energy that's supposed to be dissipated in that running away from the threat is actually still being held inside. And it's not happening once every 3 months when you see a bear, or twice a year when you gotta go and hunt. It's happening every single day. And like many other responses that we have, it is natural and it's supposed to happen periodically. But when it happens on a consistent basis, it creates what we call chronic stress. And chronic stress, not only does it causes us to gain weight, but it also causes a lot of deterioration of both our physical and mental well-being, right? We know that chronic stress shoots up cortisol. Cortisol is directly related to belly fat, right? So sometimes people will be like, you know what, I really didn't gain that much weight, but my waist size increased 5 inches, right? Because they're going through things in their life that is shifting the hormone balance in their body. Sometimes that chronic stress can actually result in you having inflammation. Your arthritis will start acting up more than normal. People who don't have arthritis will start feeling achy, right? When someone tells you that they're stressed or they're depressed, those things are not just mental states of being. It has a very physiological impact on your body. There is physiological and physical illness attached to stress and attached to depression, right? Because when you're depressed, oftentimes all of those stress hormones is what shows up inside of a profile. When you're stressed, you have problems paying attention, right? Because acutely, it helps you pay attention better. But chronic stress, actually, after a while, your brain, it just can't process. It can't stay in that constant alert state, right? So you're not remembering things properly. You are constantly feeling like, okay, I got to read that 3 times, right? So what are the things that we need to do in order to combat that amount of stress? So first of all, we have to recognize it. So the first thing that you should do for yourself is understand how you personally respond to stress. And this is very individual. And you can tell me inside of the comments, where do you think your stress response shows up first? Some people, when they're feeling really stressed, their stomach starts bothering them, right? Like, why all of a sudden, like, I feel like I have to go to the bathroom, or, right? This is not even an uncommon thing. It's something that people like getting ready to public speak, getting ready to go on stage, getting ready to meet somebody for the first time, and your stomach starts acting up. That's a stress response, right? The other ways that stress can show up is some people get pain in their neck. Some people get pain in their lower back. A really common one is you start feeling your shoulders just like this, right? Your shoulders will start to really crunch up next to your ears, and you're walking around like this, and you got to realize, like, wait a minute, let me depress, right? Some people's stress response shows up in the form of a headache. Some people's stress response shows up in the form of your joints aching, right? Everybody is very different. Hydra says she gets tightness in her chest, bowel activity, headache, and immediate fatigue. Yes, all of those. Being aware of how you personally respond to stress is step one in you learning how to manage and combat it. So the other thing that happens when you are aware of your stress response is some things that you think like, okay, I'm able to ignore it, right? Because we love to say, oh, I don't care. We love to say, well, I'm just going to keep on going about my life, right? And it's almost like we feel we are less if we get upset about something or if someone says something to hurt us or things like that. But it is okay to be hurt. It is okay to worry. It is not okay to hold on to that for a long time. So that's the difference. It's okay to say, you know what that person did hurt me. What that person what that person is doing is making me concerned. We don't have to just say, I ignore you guys, I'm going to ignore you for forever because, I don't want to care. It's okay to care, but you can't allow it to become a temporary stress to become a chronic stress, right? So the first thing is to don't play mind games with yourself, right? And say, I don't care. I'm just going to keep on going about my business, but you're going about your business like this. Nope, that didn't bother me. Nope, that didn't bother me. Right? And people are looking at like, why is your shoulders up so high? You're like, okay, yeah, that was a stress response. Right? That was a stress response. So you want to make sure that you recognize where that what that stress response is for you individually. And here is something else that I think is really important to mention is that oftentimes we will not only pretend like the stress isn't on us, and you can't pretend because your body really knows. You have to be able to deal with stress in an effective manner, so it's not a pretending thing, right? So it's not you pretending that you're not stressed out. So you have to be able to deal with it in an effective manner. But sometimes when we are, you know what I also wanted to mention? I wanted to mention that not only is stress response individual, what you are stressed from is also very individual. One of the unfortunate side effects of us being so close and having so much interaction and be able to see other people's lives and what other people are going through is that we assume that because something is traumatic for one person, that it's traumatic for us. We assume that, I'm supposed to be upset about this because, wow, all my friends are upset about this, so I should be upset about this too. No, if it does not upset you, do not assume other people's emotions. Do not absorb that. That is so, so important in this social media age. Let somebody have their emotion, have their stress, and support them through it, but don't assume it for yourself. So understand not only what your stress response is, but also what actually stresses you. The second thing, which is the flip side of that coin, is just because it didn't bother other people doesn't mean that it doesn't bother you. You are entitled to your own feelings and your own responses to what happens in the world. You are entitled to that. So I'll give you just a personal example, right? Oftentimes, no, I won't give you that example. Let me keep it general. I'll be telling y'all too much of my business. Okay? I'm gonna keep it general. Something happens in the world, in your community, and you see it online, right? And everybody is super upset about it. Oh, this is wrong, blah, 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 blah. And you may like, okay, well, that wasn't right, but I'm not so upset about it. It's okay. You don't have to go and pretend like you want to be a part of the crowd and assume other people's emotion about that thing. Just look at it, have your response, and keep going, right? Don't assume other people's emotion. Super, super important. So the first things, I want to tell you two things or three things today. Number one, the first thing you have to do is understand your individual stress response, right? The second thing is that also understand what actually stresses you, not to assume other people's emotion. And then the third thing that I think that is really important is for you to, sorry, Facebook. I was trying to look at my comments and I hit the phone. Okay. The third thing is for you to be able to deal with the response. So I'm going to give a disclaimer. I am not a mental health professional. All right. If you need therapy, please seek out therapy. Right. That is really, really important. And I always encourage people that, you can try to manage your mental health, but when you find it unmanageable, when you find one of those signs is, despite all the things that you've tried, that you are experiencing chronic stress, particularly in the time that we're in. We're in a pandemic and most of us are staying home and staying safe. Unfortunately, it's January 25th and it looks like it's just picking up again, right? So I'm not anticipating it going anywhere this year because now we got new strands. And that is quite stressful. But one of the things that you can do in order for you to dissipate stress, because one reason why we become stressed out is when we do not have control. Right? Even if you're not a control freak like me, I admit I got a little control freakdom, a little bit, just a little bit. My family will say a lot, but I say it's a little bit. All right. But it's just a human nature, right? We want to be able to direct our own lives. We want to be able to direct our own action. And it is stressful when we cannot. And we are in a position in the world where a lot of it is things that we cannot do, right? You can't make the virus go away. You can't change whatever the state laws are the country laws. If they say stay home and stay safe, right? You can't change that. So what do we do instead? So the first thing that we can do is focus on the things that you can control. So I'm not a big, I would say super fan of a lot of people. But the one person that I really, really am a super fan of is The Rock. All right. For the record, my husband knows this. Okay. And he has a great saying, and not just because he's big and muscular and all the other stuff, but his, things that he say are really inspiring. His life story is inspiring. But he has a saying that says, control the controllables. And that is a great response to chronic stress. When you feel like some things are out of control, control what you can. And there are certain things. And I always tell people, I totally recognize when I started doing a lot of self-reflection into my own stress, into what stresses me and how I control that stress. I understand that that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy exercise. One of the many reasons is because when I'm really stressed out, when my kids is acting up, when my husband is acting up, when my business isn't going the way that it's supposed to, I do workouts. Why? Because I cannot control other things, but I can control my body. And I know that my body is going to respond and do what I need it to do if I put in the action of working out, right? You're not going to do 30 push-ups a day or 50 push-ups a day for 30 days and your muscles don't grow. Physiologically, it won't happen. You control it. You're not going to go running every day and your heart doesn't become more conditioned and you develop more endurance. Physiologically, doesn't happen. Your body will respond. It is what you can control. What you put in your mouth is something that you can control. And even take it away from exercise, right? What are some of the things that you can do in your life that you can control? And you might be thinking to yourself, because I have gotten this when I've done this workshop, well, I knit. I know that I can literally control the knitting needle, but what is that going to have to do about my kid getting ready to flunk out of school? Knitting a hat is not going to get your kid not to flunk out of school, but what it is going to do, it is going to control your response to it, decrease your stress, allow you to be able to think clearer in order for you to respond more appropriately to the situation. Right? So you see how it's all kind of like interconnected and tied? That's why we want to control the controllables, even if it has nothing to do with the actual stress that you're going through. Take time to control the controllable. One of the things that we're going to do this week is I'm going to take you through a series of breath work, right? I think we'll do that on Wednesday. We're going to do a breath work series. And that is a part of controlling the controllable, right? Control your breathing to change the physiological response of your body for stress, all right? So I don't want to give you away all the goodies on day one. I want to talk to y'all today. I want to talk to you tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday. So that is where we're going to stop for today in terms of stress. Lena actually mentioned, and it made me remember that this is a nice picture of me and Oprah that I keep behind my desk. Okay, I think both of you can see it. Yes, it is. And it is interesting that you mentioned that, which is why I'm pointing it out, is because today is my Oprahversary. It is one of my Oprahversaries. So today, gosh, now it's been 14 years. 14 years ago today, maybe it's been 13. I don't know, something like that. I was a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and it aired on January 25th. And so it is actually my Oprahversary. I have two Oprahversaries. So October 31st is the day that the show was recorded, but it did not air to the world until January the 25th. I tell you what I'm going to do so that I can actually, so people who came on this live or come on this live to hear about stress. This is a whole extra thing. I'm going to log off and I'm going to log back on and I'm going to tell you how I end up on Oprah. All right? So I see you in 2 minutes. Real quick, I'll tell the story if somebody hasn't heard it. People who have heard it before are going to be like, oh, she tells this story every year. But it was important, so I'm going to tell it. All right, I'll be right back.